Good evening, welcome to the Board of Education meeting. It's Tuesday, November 10th. And we will, I guess, start with announcements.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So a few things to share with you. First, we have our soccer craze in Hastings. Congratulations to the boys varsity soccer team. Mr. Sandhop and Mr. KB done an outstanding job all year, and they seem to be coming together and peaking right at the right time. But the Section 1 champs and regional champs, and we made it to the state Final Four, which is, from what I understand, the furthest that we've gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever, but as long as people can remember, certainly.
Yeah.
And so we have a real important game on Saturday at 4 o'clock at Middletown High School. And should we be fortunate to win then they play for the state championship final on Sunday in the same place. So we wish them all the best and hope they come home victorious. So
Yeah.
quite an accomplishment. So we're just so pleased with them. At the high school, the student SAD Club, Students Against Destructive Decisions, participated in the National Mix It Up Day at lunch on Tuesday, October 27th, where students were given cards with different colors, and they sat at the different tables with perhaps somebody they didn't know. It was just all randomly done to try to step out of their comfort zone, meet somebody else, as a way to kind of break down barriers and really open up communication. And from what I understand, it was a really interesting day, and kids got a lot out of it. So I want to thank the SAD Club for arranging that.
When did it change its name to?
Against,
It's like 10, 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
Was it really?
yeah, it's
long
been a
time
while.
ago.
It's been a while.
I guess it's always an abbreviation the same.
If you hadn't had the opportunity to see the auditorium yet, it's getting closer to completion. There's a few pictures here for you to kind of give you an idea of what it currently looks like. You can see one before the chairs are in and one after the chairs were in. From what I understand, we're hoping by the end of next week to have everything complete. They're in the final stages of putting the electrical work in place for the sound and lighting. I think the lighting people are coming on Thursday. And then we have a few more chairs to put in as well, and that's pretty much it. So it's really come a long way. Our guys have just been absolutely tremendous. Joe and Emilio and Martin have just been really outstanding getting us through this and working their rear ends off and taking great pride in their work. You know, it's interesting because we had other people in doing some of the work. Martin wasn't happy. He was like, "This looks like garbage, I'm going to redo it." And he really took great pride in it, and you could see the way it came out.
really
It's really
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
And we're going to have our first event on December 11th, which is the high school play. It's a Friday night. And what I'd like to do is have an opening reception about an hour prior to the start of the play. I thought we could have something in the lobby with some refreshments, although we're making it very clear we don't want any food or refreshments inside our new auditorium. But I'd like to have some kind of opening ceremony, and if you're available, we'd love to have all the board members come out for that. I think it'd be really important to start it off in the right way. So December 11th, I don't know the time. I don't remember the time the play starts, so about an hour before that. Usually 7,
Yeah.
so maybe we can do something around 6 and invite people in that want to be there. I think would be terrific. So you'll get more information about that.
Maureen, have you decided where you want to put the extra seats for the, we've gotten, most of the charities want to take sets of the extra seats to auction them off, the ones from the balcony seats were actually, I guess, original Haywood Wakefield seats, probably from the 20s or 30s, with a special H on them. And I found them online. They were going for various different dollar amounts. But so they raffled them off at the ball, and I think HEF and the Alumni Association, the Historical Society wants a set, and we're going to put a set in the
In the lobby.
where those
Where
flat
the
benches are.
is, we may remove one of the benches and put
Put the seats
that
there.
right
Oh, nice.
outside, which would be nice.
Yeah.
As long as it's one where the seats aren't.
Right now.
Well, that's the nice thing, because we only have so many end caps, we can pick and choose good
We
seats
get the
between
best
them.
seats. in the-
Yeah. We've also started work on the Reynolds Field. As you can see, the equipment's there, and they, from what I understand today, they took out the bleachers, the old bleachers.
Yeah.
And we closed the area off. We were hoping that we could try to get a pathway for students who are normally cutting across there to get to walk to school, but we don't think it's going to work. There's too many safety issues, and the people doing the construction work and our construction manager has recommended that we not have students, go through there, which I don't blame them. So our students, unfortunately, are going to have to walk around Reynolds Field to get to school. And that'll be closed off for a while, or at least for a couple of months, until the weather, well, they're going to do as much work as we can, provided the weather holds up. And then once the winter hits, they'll most likely remove their equipment so we can open up during that time, and then close it off again in the spring until we finish the work there. So at least that work has started. It's nice to see progress starting to be made.
The track was gone, too.
The track was gone? I didn't know
Track was
that.
When is it definite that the playground's closed down? I think you said that they were definitely closing that down.
Playground's closed right now, right? Until we're done down there, is that?
Yeah,
I know you spoke to the town about it.
Yeah, Kendra and I had some discussions, and they still need to pour, I guess, like a rubberized surface and do different work. And I guess at one point they thought they wouldn't have that done before the winter, but she said there may be a possibility that they could be done mid to late December. So we're going to see them where we're at, like in terms of the tennis courts and that area, to see whether they may be able to access the park. We'll just
Right, if we
have our
fence it,
fencing
just
out.
Yeah.
Right. But, she said that would be only if they were able to get that work done, with the weather. If the weather cooperates for them, they'll be able to open up at that time frame. So we're in touch, and I did tell her that we are looking at some options for the tennis courts and how that may impact the area or not impact the area, so.
Yeah, later on during the board meeting, we're going to talk about options at the tennis court that I'd like to get the board's opinion on and discussion about. So we'll share those with you a little bit later on under new business, perhaps, or?
Sure.
Okay. And the other thing, when Maureen did send a note home to the community, reminding them of the work that's being done at Reynolds Field, and also letting them know that trees will be taken down. That's part of the work, the site work that's being done between the tennis court and the track. And there'll be also trees along the Chauncey Lane area that'll be coming down as well. So we may hear back, people didn't read it, they may, they're upset by that, but we do have plans, obviously, to replace the trees that are being taken down. But according to the people doing the construction, many of the trees are weed trees, but the ones near Chauncey are compromised, the root system, when you're putting a new sidewalk in and everything, digging over there, even if you tried to save them, some of them probably wouldn't survive anyway, so.
A lot of them were like caught up in the fence, too. so
Yeah.
They were really,
Yeah.
really crap.
Right. Project Share is coming up. It's hard to believe we're talking about that already, it seems. But we're getting ready for the 26th year. It'll be held on Tuesday, November 24th. I don't know how many people are planning on coming yet, but last year we had about 800 or so meals being served. And I suspect that'll be somewhere around that same number again. So look forward to seeing that.
And they're doing two different things. They're doing the toy collection, the stuffed animal collection for the boys, and another group is doing handbags. So I had seen an email that, they were, if you take, a women's handbag, and they were going to fill it with sort of just little necessities, kind of things, like things you could, I think it must have been through the village that they were, do you know who the organization was? Because I remember reading that, I said, what a great idea.
The Facebook, I don't know, 10706, maybe we could find the information and
Is it on
post
the
it.
school website?
It's not an hour.
It's not
It's
on
not
ours.
ours,
It's
it's
not on
village.
ours. I think it must have been one of the village messages. I can check. I just thought it was a great idea.
That is a great
If you have a purse that didn't quite work out.
That was smart.
Or you go through them really quickly or
Most
something.
of us do.
Yeah. Or one that you just, that would be, a good one to give away.
Right.
I think it's a great idea.
It is a
so,
great idea.
yeah. And stuffed animals.
Yeah.
Is there any better way to get rid of stuffed
Yeah,
animals?
absolutely.
No.
Charlton Heston says about like cold, dead, that's trying to buy the stuffed animals away from
Yes, well, but by the time they get to be going to junior formal, there are a few they can probably give up.
you really
But not
hope.
many.
Not many.
No.
I've got boxes.
Yeah, speaking of junior formal, it's going on as we speak. Down in the gym, it's a 1920s theme. It's really well done. They decorated the place great, and the kids look super. They really look super. And coming up on the 18th, we have a parent meeting, a parent coffee. We're at the elementary school at Hillside to talk about the makerspace. That's a follow-up to the first curriculum meeting that we held in the evening. And we surveyed the people who were there in the audience, asking them what topics they would like to hear more about. And I gave them choices of various things. And the makerspace was the next one that people want to hear about. So we're going to try it at 8:30 right after drop-off, because some people would rather come at night, some people would rather come during the day. So we're going to try to see where we get, alternate them and see where we get the best response. So that's the second in our series throughout the year that we're going to try to provide information, curricular type information for our parents. Right now we have about 30 parents who did sign up in RSVP that they're going to be coming. So it'll be presented.
It's pretty good if you get along.
Yeah, along with myself, it'll be Laura Sullivan, Jamie Nedwick, who does the makerspace at the elementary school, and Chris Keogh at the middle school. So we're going to talk to them about what it's about, but then also give time to tinker for parents, so they get experience
I just
in the
think
makerspace.
seeing the spaces is really
Yeah.
eye-opening.
We're going to do it right in the library, and then have, because the
Go
room's
down to-
connected, open the room up for them to go through and look around and play around a little bit. So hopefully they'll have a
Legos.
good turnout.
The Lego wall.
The Lego wall and things like that. And that's it for me. Next meeting's on the 24th, same night as Project Share. So,
Oh, is it really?
yeah, I know. I didn't know that at the time because we didn't have their date, but I don't know if we want to think about that or not, but something to think about. Or if we can start earlier, I don't know, something, I don't know
What
how we
time
can
does
handle
the
it.
project share start?
Usually, I don't know, the first buses coming around 6:30, I think. So, I don't know, something, if we want to talk about changing it or postponing it, if there's not a lot on the agenda, perhaps we don't
Right.
have to have the meeting. So,
Right,
so-
'cause we could only shift it to Monday that week, because it's,
You're correct, we can only shift it to
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know how much is on the agenda that's pressing, because we'll have another meeting early December anyway, or or Monday, so that's,
Okay.
so we're going to hold that, just be thinking about that. Okay, and that's it.
All right. I think we can move right to the business section. Were there questions people had on any of the items? Take them out? No? Okay.
is there,
Oh, go ahead.
just on the pictures, is that something we could get a local, I mean, if we're going to spend that much money, I'm wondering if that's something we could have like the local framing people do for us or something like that. Is that, it just seems, I mean, I understand that we want to get these pictures framed so we can have at least, what was it, like one per production per year or something like that?
Yes. I mean, they were taking, we had all those existing photos that were
Right,
in
they're
the
all
lobby,
inside, I
and,
think, yeah.
I forget if it was 18 pictures or so, or maybe it was more than
I think
that.
it
There were
was
different sizes
17.
that were being done. Melissa Hardesty kind of took the lead
17.
on that, so I can check. I mean, I know that there's Quarry Glass, is that like one of the local? I mean, I can.
They don't frame pictures though, right?
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, they
Yeah,
do
there's
matte and
no, they have
frame?
two shops. They have the plate glass one, and then they have Corey Glass where,
They frame.
Oh, the
Yeah.
one downtown?
Yeah.
she
Oh.
framed. Yeah, she does a great job,
Oh,
especially
okay.
the big things.
I've only been to
I mean, the
plate
only
glass
thing,
one.
I think at this point, they may already have, I mean, they didn't start the work, but they may be already,
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to
I'd-
continue to get more done.
I'd also be concerned, well, not concerned, but if we want to have them in time for the opening, I know they've talked to this person already to make sure the timing could work out, so we'd have to check that out as well.
I mean, it's up to you, if you want us to reach out. I mean,
But it's just saying, like, it'd be nice.
we would like to have
We'd
them
like
up
to
in
have
the
them for the
next
opening.
few weeks, yeah.
Have them up on the
For the
wall.
auditorium
Yeah,
opening.
yeah,
Got it.
because they're going to go on the back wall,
Got it.
wall of the
Yeah.
auditorium.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually wasn't sure if they did the matting, because I knew that that was the one place in town that kind of did that type of work. But I know that we're leaving a lot of room for the future, so, I mean, we can hold off on this, it's up to you, whatever you
No,
think.
don't hold off. I mean,
Okay.
I was just saying is,
Yeah, no, I know, we do like to
Something
try
like
to
that.
give the local businesses the work if possible, so. I believe it's in Connecticut.
But it was probably a better price, right?
It may have been, I mean, she
seems
had
like
done
it.
a bunch of, like, shopping around, and she
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
that was
It
the
seems
best
like-
price. So I don't know whether, I can't say whether she contacted Corey, she may have. This was the one she said was the best price for what,
Okay.
what she, you know, kind of felt, the quality, what we were
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
For back there, so. But we are definitely leaving a lot of space because there'll be future, you know, productions that we want to also put up pictures for.
When you speak to her tomorrow, if they can, I can tell you which show might be a good idea to pull,
Okay.
and maybe they can do that last if it's not, you know, if it's not a problem.
Okay.
If it's interrupting things, that's different.
Okay, I will.
Is there a reason why I can't actually see any of the enclosures?
I was just getting that too.
Really?
So you don't,
You can't see them?
You can't see them?
no, like it says that they're enclosures.
Did you scroll all the way down?
Yeah.
Did you
and there's
log into
nothing
your
there.
thing?
Did you go to the public view? or
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that might be why
Authenticate
it's,
it.
it's
You have to
not-
authenticate, not
Yeah.
the public site.
Right.
I thought I
Even
saw,
though it's-
I mean, I
my-
went
did
into
have-
it.
you had
Yeah,
something.
totally, my name was there.
because I had seen you had wanted the,
But
you had the
even if your
four
name-
wall.
But yeah, if your name's there, you still have to go into the
Authenticate.
authenticated site, not the public site. Because if you don't, you only see what the public sees, not what the board sees with all the
That's where I
enclosures.
was, but since it logged me in without me doing anything.
Okay.
All right,
Maybe you can
well,
log out and try to
Yeah,
log in
I'm trying
again. Okay.
You can
Okay.
keep going.
we can keep
Okay.
going, all right. Can I have a motion then to approve items B1 through 8,
So moved.
and a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Okay. The placements for the CSE and CPSC, was there anything anybody wanted to?
Just a question, actually, the policy answered for me, but the law requires, and at what age do kids age out of us providing special education
21.
services? 21?
21,
Okay.
yeah.
So if a kid is in college and they're having special education services, are we?
No,
Still,
once they
how does
leave
that-
high school, once they graduate high school, we're not responsible for that anymore.
Okay.
But they're still in a
The later
program,
on,
they're
the later-
a
But
if they're
special ed
still-
program up until 21.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about that. Okay, thanks.
Can I get a motion then to approve all the items in B,
So moved?
and a second? All those in favor? Okay. On the personnel, there are a bunch of different ones in here. Did anybody, if we can do them all together unless somebody wants to pull something out?
Is the leave replacement for the, Lou mentioned it.
Yeah,
is the
Carolyn
leave replacement in
Adonasio.
here?
She should be there.
Yes, her name Taryn.
Taryn Phelan, number 8.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
We're actually just going to change the wording. It's actually substitute, regular substitute, because it's, anything under 5 months is not really a leave replacement.
It's a regular substitute.
It's like a
Oh, is that right?
long-term stuff. Yeah, it just gives them a different level of benefits,
Yep.
that's
Right.
all.
That was the amendment.
Yeah, we're
Right.
just changing the amendment on the,
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion then to approve personnel items A through D?
So moved?
And a second?
Second?
All those in favor? The minutes, they look fine to me. Did anybody else have anything in them? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from whatever that meeting was?
October 27th,
October 27th, thank you.
so moved?
And a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't there, so I have no idea.
Okay. All right, so we have committee reports. Don, you want to
Policy.
bring up the policy?
Okay. So let's see, there are 2 policies that we had been looking at last spring and that we hadn't finished, which we now have gotten the update information. So those are going to be in a first read in a little bit. In addition to that, we went over the 5 policies that NYSBA had in their first policy update for this year, and one of them where they had some recommended changes was the public participation at board meetings. We didn't necessarily feel that the changes that NYSBA was recommending were relevant to our district, but despite that, we wanted to make sure that, as we looked at the policy, we want to make sure that the language really reflects what we
we
wanted
do,
to.
yeah.
Yes, and what we do. So Eileen is taking on the role of editing that one and is going to circulate it back to the committee. And then once the three of us have all seen it, we'll end up putting that one up for first read if we decide to make changes. The school attorney policy, they had some recommended changes. Our current school attorney policy is one of the very old, I think, original policies that we had that was basically one sentence, maybe two. And their policy is more substantial. It's not clear that everything that they say really needs to be said, but I said I would take a pass at seeing if there was a happy medium between our cryptic one-sentence policy and their overly long policy, and then I'm going to circulate that to Wendy and Eileen. There were 3 policies that all were in the 8,000 series, which tend to have to do with the physical plant and health and safety, school building safety, building and grounds maintenance and inspection. And all of these, they were recommending changes because the state legislature repealed a requirement for annual visual inspections in one section of the law, but it remains in another section of the law. We weren't sure.
Which they're planning to fix.
Which they're planning to fix.
Right, so it just hasn't happened yet.
So Eileen is going to investigate that one and report back to the committee because we didn't want to make a change that we were then going to have to undo subsequently, so we were just going to do a little more.
And I did talk to Maria, we did have a health and safety committee meeting, and the role, because it was also a question of who was going along on the inspections, because the inspections that we typically do as a board are not the same ones that they're talking about, which is where you would go out with a safety inspector and things like that. So we had talked a little about it, so I'll
you did? Okay,
make a little
great.
progress, but.
All right. So basically, the 5 policies that they brought up are things that we're now in the process of doing some additional work on. What else? There were 3 policies that were left over from last year. As I said, one of them had to do with student health services, which we had just very recently changed, and NYSBA, in the cover letter that came with the 5 policy changes, alluded to some additional changes relating to the student health office that were going to be coming down soon. So we've decided to table that one until the dust settles a little bit on student health services, so that we're not changing it every meeting. So so that one we're going to hold off until NYSBA says they have sort of final resolutions on some of the issues that are coming down from the state. The other 2 that are up for a first read, should I just explain them now?
Yeah, might as well.
So one of them is the school admissions policy, and we had asked Roy and Maureen to take a look at the language in NYSBA's recommended policy, and the way they describe sort of what documentation somebody has to bring in to prove as proof of residency. We wanted to see sort of how that compared to the language that we had adopted previously. And so Maureen sort of looked at the 2 policies, and basically what we've decided to do is to go with NYSBA's policy, but to insert a chunk of our current policy in it, because there's some specific pieces that Maureen felt it was very helpful to have directly spelled out in the policy. So that's what you're seeing for a first read tonight, is, again, it's the whole NYSBA one plus about 3 paragraphs worth of ours that just spells out some specific documentation. And then the other one that had to do with interscholastic athletics, and there had been a NYSBA recommended update last year, and so we were looking at that policy, and we had asked Roy to discuss it with Adam, because we realized that our policy was silent on the whole issue of 7th and 8th graders playing up, which was addressed in NYSBA's policy. And so So Roy and Adam looked at that, and they recommended some language. We didn't actually, on this one, we did not go with NYSBA's language. We largely kept our existing policy, and we added in a section that addresses that issue. Another thing that had been in the NYSBA policy that we just discussed, because it's something that is not the policy of this district, and rather than just ignoring it, we had a conversation about it, was the issue of New York State does allow school districts to give kids credit for participation in I'm about to say intercollegiate because too many of my children are in college, interscholastic sports, when they're on teams, so that in lieu of taking gym class. And it's never been a policy here in Hastings to do that. And so since we were reviewing that policy, we just thought it was a good time to sort of think about it and make a conscious decision whether that was what we wanted or whether it was just this way because it had always been this way. And basically, Roy went back and spoke with the administrators and shared with us their feelings on it, and the committee decided that that it really wasn't something that that we wanted to change, that we wanted to have all the kids involved in gym class for a number of different reasons. Having everything from the fact that it's exposing them to sort of a much wider breadth of different types of physical activity rather than just the sport that they're competing on. It also is an opportunity, because gym classes in the high school have kids from grades 9 through 12 all mixed together. It's an opportunity for all the kids to kind of mix. And I think one of the really wonderful things about our school district is that the grades don't stay isolated from each other, but the kids do end up getting to sort of mix across grades, and the gym class is a place where that happens. And it also means that you're not sort of peeling off the most athletic kids and having none of, it keeps sort of a more heterogeneous mix of ability levels in the gym classes. So, I mean, there were just like a whole bunch of reasons, those being some of them, where we decided that the way that the policy stands right now, we were going to leave it alone. But that was the only other thing we talked about.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me go back to, where are we?
Committees.
Audit
Committee, next.
Audit, we met this afternoon with the internal auditor, and we basically looked at two things. One was the review of the facilities audit that they did this past year, and then we also talked about the risk assessment that they'll do sometime between November or Thanksgiving and Christmas during that month-long period, and that will drive what gets looked at sort of for the coming year. But for this year, the work that they did over the summer was on the facilities, and they went through pretty much how we operate in the facilities department, the way that you order things, how work orders go through. I guess I learned today that even small things like, every time you ask the custodian to do something, that should become a work order, and then it flows through in terms of who's doing it, what resources are spent on it, and then when it gets done. So that kind of tracks everything. So that was one of the things, was to do a better job with our work order system, was one of the recommendations. And then the other
work order system electronic, or
yeah, so it's all electronic, and
It's
I
all
guess
part of what the school dude thing? It's got that. It's got preventative maintenance.
yeah, there's a School Dude, I guess, is like, it's kind of like School Wires, but
School Dude, yeah.
School Dude. But it's so it has different modules in it, and one of them would be one that he thought would be worth taking a look at, was for improving the scheduling of preventive maintenance, which is another one. So there are some recommendations that they made. You guys will go back. Facilities use, yeah.
Right, so that's going to be probably a project for the Facilities Committee too, because
Yeah.
he thinks we should be making that more rigorous, I guess, in terms of how we,
Or using more an electronic schedule.
yeah.
Right, so that people can at least see what's available. If you want to use the gym, is it available on, June 2nd?
Apply electronically.
Right. And then also you mentioned another school district that has a really...
Putnam Valley, yeah, I was looking at theirs while we were
Did you?
talking, because they really classify, when you apply, it looks like you have to pick which type of organization you are, and they have a whole bunch of classifications of organizations.
Right.
So, I mean, that might be an interesting, we talked about how difficult it is to figure out what kind of policy or what kind of fee to charge different organizations depending on how they come in, whether they're for-profit, not-for-profit.
Right, and we've taken like a first cut at that, a couple years ago, we took a first cut. So
Right.
this would be like a little bit more finely tuned example of how you do it. And also, I guess, then they show all their forms and how you fill out the insurance forms
Right.
and other things. So, I mean, I think it would be helpful if we want to do a little bit more use of the building. So that's something facilities can take a look at, so. But, for the most part, the rave reviews of our current staff flowed through to the auditors. He was complimentary about them. And but there were some things to do. And then, so in the risk assessment, well, one thing he did mention too is he almost never, ever, ever sees it. But, they put a number on each of the sort of buckets that they look at. There's payrolls, there's purchasing, there's facilities, there's technology. Well, it's almost never the case that you come under the 200 threshold. We're at 199 for technology. Just because technology is a risk. It has a
Lower
very
number,
high-
the better.
The lower the number, the
High
better.
risk.
Because it's a
And-
risk factor.
Right.
So the higher risk numbers, so he said you almost never see a district that comes down under, but we are at 199, so that was really good. So kudos to, superintendent for doing the technology committee, and then Angelo for doing all the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
But, but it's all things like, like password changing and all the other steps, and the equipment that you have in, and getting all the softwares through, and all the monitoring that has to get done. So it's a pretty fraught area, but they're doing a really good job too there. So that was nice. That was one nice comment. And so what we also, because our external auditor had said that we should really have the internal audit be done in the springtime, so that when she comes in to do her audit in June, that work is already done. So that's the schedule we talked about with the internal auditor today. So that should be in place for going into next year, which is why he's going to, get going on the analysis of risk for this in the next month. And then in January, February, March, something like that, he'll be able to do the actual auditing and get that report out by May to put us in a good place for the external auditor. So.
And I think we said that unless the risk assessment shows something very different, we're probably going to do purchasing and accounts payable as the next focus area.
Right. All right.
Was going to do what?
Purchasing and accounts payable,
Yeah.
which will dovetail with the personnel shifting there too.
Right. So the other meeting that we had today, Gab and I have been here all afternoon, was the community leaders. And it was, there are an awful lot of people who were invited, and not so many came. But it was interesting from the group that was, groups that were there. The school talked about some of the things that are going on here in the high school, the World of Difference, training that they're going to give kids. They talked about some of the parent support stuff that they're doing too through the social worker that Chris Repp is doing. In middle school, they were also doing some things that it's kind of like more bringing the kids into sort of running the asylum. They have, the students, they have the executive board, the grade 8 executive board. So it's trying to get the kids really involved, and that's what the World of Difference program is too as well. That's bringing in students, having them be trained as peer leaders or as peer leader coordinators,
Peer leaders,
to have discussions that are not necessarily easy to have about a lot of isms. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Externally, the Education Foundation is doing a couple of things next week. On the 19th, they have a play reading, and on the 20th, they're doing at Hillside, they're doing another movie night. And the idea was really to get a lot of people to be more aware of them, rather because they only have one big thing a year. This is to sort of make them a bit more of a household name. So hopefully everybody hears that, and they'll be more of a household name. These are not really their fundraisers. This is really just to get people sort of aware of them. The village, there are a couple different things kind of going on at the village. It seems like one is through the youth advocate office, and there's a woman there, Jennifer Reed? Joanne Reed. But she's been working, she's been up in the middle school doing some things with drug and alcohol awareness and prevention, kind of things with the age groups there. But then there's also the youth advocacy group, and they're doing a tremendous amount of stuff in a lot of different places, but some of it ties into service learning. And,
You mean the youth council?
The youth council.
She's the youth advocate.
There's a youth advocate and then youth council.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they're working together a little bit on sort of drug and alcohol kind of prevention things, but the youth council is really trying to promote volunteerism I guess, and civic activity among the kids. I think it's fair to say. They had a philanthropy fair at the high school. They brought like 15 reasonably local organizations in so that kids could see opportunities for becoming involved in the community. And I thought that was a really interesting push that I had not heard about at all, really. So that was, but it does also, because we're going to go back and look at our strategic plan. There's that whole chunk. But I think they'd be a great resource, and it might be a way to do it rather than do it through the school, but to have, so as much as we can, try to work together, but that's a sort of avenue to pursue. And then the other thing that I remember really was that, there are two things. The PTSA has already given away $9,000 in grants to the district in the first couple months of the year, so there's a lot of stuff going on there. And our librarian, Sue Fear, is retiring at the end of this calendar year.
Yep.
The village librarian.
The village librarian, yeah. And I don't know if anybody, I just got her email. I was thinking, this is such a great email.
I know.
And she has a wonderful tone, and there's like really good stuff going on. And I'm like going, oh, I couldn't wait for the next one. And they go, oh, she's gone. Oh, well. So I think she's done a really nice job. Obviously wish her well for whatever she's going to do, but they're going to have to find a new librarian, I guess. So.
Were the PTSA grants planned grants, like things that they had been asked for money in advance?
Well, they asked
Like the
teachers,
health
it's a
department.
rolling
Yeah, that's what I
application,
mean.
so
Right,
yeah. But just recently, they're helping with the cost of the fan buses for the soccer games. That's,
Oh, because I
Some of
heard
the
that was the
money goes
booster club.
both
Both.
of
It's
them,
both,
Both of them
yeah.
are.
boosters and PTSA.
But some of the things they did a Spanish dance program.
The Ballet
They had,
Hispanico
Oh, they came
program.
on Friday.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
came, and they're doing also the playwrights.
Yes, playwrights at the high school.
Yeah.
Robots in the elementary.
They're also
Robots?
Robots at the elementary school. The middle school apparently has not been big on asking for things, so
Yeah,
they're going to, Hilda said
they
they're
will
going to get
now.
on that. And then in the third grade, they're doing an artist in residence. So these are in response to different classroom initiatives that the
Requests,
teachers are
yeah,
going on.
teacher
So these are, sort of, they have a rolling process. So I guess if you didn't get into the Education Foundation queue at the right time, this is
Right.
the other way to get your project funded, so.
Hadn't we
great.
talked in the past about, us on the board being made aware of, I thought usually we would either see it as a business item.
I've asked them, do you know if this is part of their arts and ed? Like, is this under that window for
No,
them?
I don't think so, because
I
some of
don't
these
think
things
so.
really.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly robots would not be.
Right.
Or
Yes.
is it stuff they're working directly with the principals on, or something?
that- right.
Would have to come through the business office
Well-
anyway, if money's being spent, right?
Well, it depends, because sometimes on the bigger items or things that either we contract through BOCES, then we would be aware and we would put it on the board agenda and acknowledge that they were funding it. But there are times that if the principals go directly to them or through them and they're able to cut the check directly to whoever they're paying, then we're not aware. But I had said to them, that's fine, but they should just give us a list, and then you could acknowledge it as a business item, the donation of these items, whether they paid directly or whether, that's really.
You know what, I would just send
You know.
Jackie an email.
Yeah.
Okay.
And say,
Okay.
she was the one that was talking about
Right, just
them.
so that they can, people
Yeah,
are aware, and
Yeah.
it's part of the,
Yeah.
as part of the actual agenda, it's important to acknowledge things
Yeah.
that they pay for.
Yeah. So the only thing, it's not on the list, but we did have a Health and Safety
Yeah.
Committee meeting, and by and large, 95% of the meeting was the gentleman who has been the consultant on improving safety in the schools, and they've worked with us for, a safety plan. They've done training with the teachers. I guess there've been some changes at the state level. They've now moved the safety board, they've combined it with, or pulled it underneath the state police department, so some of the guidelines have changed a little bit as a result of that, but not too much. We're pretty much
Actually,
in
the board has
compliance
to
with-
adopt that plan, which I have to,
Yeah,
Has to
it's,
adopt
as
our-
anything from the state, there's hoops you have to jump through, but we're in pretty good position in terms of what we've done and the kind of planning that goes on. He was very, he's always been very positive about our police department and the work that they do, and their receptiveness and their willingness to sort of, put themselves at risk. And I guess they recently made a change, and I wouldn't have known it, but if there is an event, they have now changed, our own police department has changed their policy that they don't wait for multiple police officers to be here. If there's a threat, they would go in, one police officer. As soon as the first guy gets there, he's going to go
First person is
in,
going in.
first person responds in, which is obviously much more risky for them, but
Yeah.
they feel like they could make,
Because things happen so quickly.
Some things happen so
By the time
quickly.
they wait for a team, the event's over.
The seconds count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So, I mean, I think that's just, incredibly noble of them to do that, so I hope they never have to do it. And then they also talked a little bit about having all faculty trained on Incident Command System, which is an online course in terms of responding to different types of events. So a lot of the conversation gets pulled towards the really, really dramatic ones, which would be shooter events, but there are all kinds of responses to weather and building issues.
Gas leaks.
And, all kinds of smaller things that can happen as well. So, but there are all kinds of plans that I just think people should be aware that the faculty is being trained on. We have a whole, 12 fire drills a year, which it's just astonishing.
you heard what he said, that they're going to be looking.
So they're going to modify the
Changing,
number of, so we can have other kinds of drills under that dozen drills. Now, some of them will not be fire drills, they'll be lockdown drills or lock-in drills. There are different kinds, lots of different ways that you can, work on addressing a crisis issue. So, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on there.
We talked about the new, we have the security company now that is.
Right.
And people, there's a lot of positive feedback, I think, from all the different building levels, and that seems to be working out well this year for us.
Right. And there were just like a couple little hiccups on that one, like
Right,
when they have
just-
lunch or something, who
Yeah.
covers and
Yep.
who's responsible, but those, but by and large, that's worked out well. So that was on. And like I said, we'll figure out the policy change that is reflected and for the responsibilities of the Health and Safety Committee.
Right, but, and then in terms of the safety plans that that Matt kind of touched on, which are not, there were just some minor changes because we had kind of done a lot of the work last year. I believe we're required to have like a hearing, post that the plan's being reviewed. It's the public plan, not each building also has like an internal plan that's confidential.
A much more
right.
detailed plan of action,
Right,
yeah.
and then we also have that plan posted on our website, but we are required now to, at least announce that the board will be reviewing and, I guess, adopting that plan each year.
So that'll come in the next...
I would say in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Next few weeks, either the next meeting or the weekend, or the
one after that?
one after.
Okay. Welcome. Darn. Okay. How do I go back? Oh, there it is. All right, here I am. Okay, so our student is dancing the night away. She's at the junior formal, so we'll pass on that.
Very cute.
So we don't have anything listed under old business, so new business, we have the policies.
I have an old business question. I don't know, Wendy, because I wasn't at the last meeting, did you report out at all about the NISBA conference? Or,
I don't think so.
okay, and, I don't think I'm actually prepared to do it today because I didn't bring anything with me, but,
Put it up for next time then.
but next time we can just tell you what we did, what we went to. Okay.
Yeah, I went to the voting session. That was really exciting. Okay, so we have policies. These are the first reads, so we don't need to act on anything tonight. Donna's already talked about what they were. So if you have questions, want to address them now, or?
Yeah, and if anyone, I realized we used to sort of somehow highlight for you what portion was new versus old, and the way I cut and pasted this, it's not inherently obvious, so if you either have questions now or if you want to call me, I can explain to you which part, was inserted from our old policy or.
But going forward, we really should have it be tracked, because otherwise it's just too hard to know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Even having sat through the meetings, I find it a little difficult to know what we were looking at. Excuse me. Okay, so, if there are any comments, questions, give those a good read, and we'll vote on them the next time. Did you want to talk about?
I do want to bring up the issue of the tennis courts. As part of our referendum, the tennis courts were being resurfaced, and we only included the resurfacing and the filling of the cracks. And I think the budget in the referendum was about, for labor and materials, about $50,000 roughly is what we had allocated. We have since learned from the person doing the contractor as well as the construction manager that they're not in terrific shape. They're worse than what we anticipated, so they're recommending that we do a whole remilling of the tennis courts and redoing them, basically redoing them. But that requires a change order. So we received a price on the change order of about $200,000 to redo them, but that's also including the fence, the netting, the poles, and all of those things with it, because the fence, they said, is shot as well, by the way, which was not included in our
That was
vote.
not included before?
No. We're waiting to hear, we got an initial credit back, we don't think they're accurate, because they're not doing this, and they're doing that, we should get a credit back on some of that work. I mean, not all of it, but some of it. And we're waiting to hear back on the full amount of credit back to us. I didn't get the email today for the follow-up. But it would be my recommendation, since we're already doing it, if you don't do it now, you're not going to do it, is my opinion. You're probably just going to resurface and let it go. The resurfacing that we were doing maybe last another 5 years or so. Whereas if you redo it with the remilling, you're going to get significantly more time on it because you're redoing them basically down to the ground. And since we're making everything else look good, my recommendation is that we approve the change order to move forward on that. And so I'm throwing that out to you for discussion and/or approval on that.
You had mentioned also the USTA.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Caroline Gizzi, who was our tennis coach, has connections with the USTA and has learned that, and she's applying for a grant from the USTA, that if we redo them in total and we meet with their specifications, which we would, there's an opportunity to get 20% of the money back from a grant by USTA.
Right.
John Jay just did it, and they were guaranteed a minimum of 20%. The requirements would be that at least on 2 of the courts, we would have to put lines on for the 10 and under group. I guess there's a different court for 10 and under for youth tennis.
Yeah, they split it into.
Yeah, so we would have to put those lines on 2 of the courts, and we would have to try to work with the town to try to develop a youth program in tennis, and Caroline's is very interested in doing that. So that would be nice. $40,000 back would be terrific for us.
So in
That
theory, it
help
would
us.
cost us an
Right.
extra $150, but we might get
We
40
might get
back.
more than that back. I think we should get more than that back. So
would
it's
do some
probably
more extra
closer to the
$100,000.
$100,000 to $120,000 range is the net out if we get both of those items that I think we will.
But we were
So
already allocating 50.
we were. Yep.
And they're saying that the nets and everything, because I'm surprised that the fencing and the nets are considered to be in such bad repair. I mean, I thought we had different nets that we put up whenever we have them playing games, and then we have the village has their own
Yeah.
nets that they put up.
Gab, I
I'm not
honestly
sure. But if
honestly don't
Caroline,
know.
I mean, I trust
Yeah.
Caroline's judgment on all this,
Yeah.
so if she's, the surface, yeah, I totally agree
Yes,
with that,
right.
that should be done.
Yeah, the fencing around it, from what our construction guy said, he said the fence honestly is not in good shape.
It'd be the same kind of fence that goes back in,
Yes.
right? The big chain.
Yeah. So that's kind of the briefing on that and the change order that we want to approve.
And so the money would come from?
Well, there's a couple of possibilities. We just sent out the 2 bids to be rebid on, if you call the roofing and the general contractor bids have just gone out. We expect them to come in significantly less than what we received last time. So there may be some savings. I can't guarantee that, but there may be some savings there. And you still have money in your capital that you could allocate for some of that. Right.
Is there any funds from the village tennis permits for those courts?
That I'm not sure of. I don't know how much they actually collect on the permits, but
They're about $65.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know.
Would
That's
it
something-
be completely crazy to do resurfacing the nets, do everything but the fence. I'm guessing the fencing is a somewhat big-ticket item.
I didn't see the breakdown of the itemized breakdown of that. You need fencing back up, but.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, maybe it's not.
Like, I think what happens is when they
When
break
they-
up the
Well,
court,
yeah,
the posts
the
come out.
posts
and
come
then
out.
It's really the post, and then once you.
And once you take off the
might as well
fence,
do
it's,
the
you
Might as
can't
well
put
do
it
it all,
back in.
yeah.
I don't think we would have done it just to
Yeah.
do it, but if you're
Right.
gonna do it, now you're talking about putting back up the
Yeah.
mesh.
Right.
You'd have to redo the post, and I think that's what they kind of meant, like, that, you know, it's not
Yeah.
brand new, you know, so why would you?
Right.
That would be such a small amount of the overall
Yeah.
cost.
It just seems one of the prime locations for our community. You know, they use those courts a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we should redo them, quite frankly, have them last significant more time than just refinishing the cracks.
I think it'd be a warranty.
I think there's a warranty that comes with it. I'm not sure how long it is.
On
though.
the
On the
Yours is-
courts,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, there
Yeah.
will be, because we had done them, we didn't.
We
We
resurfaced,
resurfaced
didn't
them
we?
at the same time when that track
Yeah.
was resurfaced, and I want to say that was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a painting crack repair, it wasn't
Wasn't
a
a pull,
grind down.
yeah.
Right.
It was like what we were basically going to do again.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's still warranted for like maybe 5 years. I want to say a redo is probably
Got to be longer, yeah.
something like that, like the way the track surface. I think in 15 years, you would then do painting. You know, you wouldn't grind that down.
Right.
But I think the last time we.
I think it's, you know, it's like, you know, penny wise,
we knew that
pound foolish.
eventually
That's how I look at it.
And is it
You're
going to
making
be the
everything else look
same
I'm sorry?
It's going to be,
type of surface?
Same type of surface, I
So
guess.
basically what is it, hard true or something?
Hard
That's
true.
like hard,
They
yeah.
aren't hard true courts, those are hard, those are paved courts. Yeah, they don't, hard true has that, is that sort of green sand.
Yeah, I never know which name is what, but I mean, there are courts that are sort of all-weather courts that are a little softer than those, but not the sort of fake clay courts. They still have painted lines and everything else like that.
Oh,
I'm just
are they?
wondering if
Oh.
that- But they may be more expensive surfacing
Yeah, I
than
don't know.
just
That's-
regular
I'm not sure
I
concrete.
know we did spec the Copeland, which
Right.
is the same.
So whatever the
surface
USTA
that
standard is, that's
they
what we
want,
have to go
and that's
to.
what we-
Got it.
that's what we
Okay.
told
I don't,
them, so.
that's what we're told, we have to, and Copeland is the one who does
Those
that.
extra lines are very inobtrusive. In
Yeah,
fact,
I
they're
don't-
great, even if you're teaching, if you've got
Sure.
other kids, because it kind of shows you where to stand, and so
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
actually pretty useful.
And we are, just so you know, we've recommended that, as from Caroline, that the courts are blue surface with the green on the outside. So,
Really? Blue?
That's-
I understand you can see the ball better. I'm not
Yeah,
a tennis player,
US
but
Open
that seems
Is
to
that
be the
right?
new
Used to.
trend.
Really?
Yeah, because the balls are kind of that yellow-green,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And it's in line with the USTA standards as well.
Have we ever addressed with the village the whole issue of them charging people to use our tennis courts in the summertime? Given that it's not their property?
Well, they do it, I think, so that they can regulate who's using them, and they actually do have somebody there sometimes
Yeah, my
checking
son
passes.
had that job, but it's really inefficient what they do because they have somebody there like on the weekends and like 1 or maybe 2 weekdays for certain hours, but if you go any other time, anyone could be there. But why does the village want to regulate in the summertime who's using our tennis courts? Like maybe, I mean, it just
I
doesn't
think
make
that's a
any.
good question. We
I think
don't
it's a good
regulate who
question.
uses the basketball court.
I think the other thing should be that they really need to make it clear that when the teams have to use it, because I know that there's times when there's collisions, and
Well, there's a
tennis playing
perception, that
patrons aren't
perception
always
is
that
that,
nice to the practicing teams.
since they're the ones collecting the fees, the perception is that
Is
they
that
are
they're
their
village
It's their
courts.
village
Yeah.
courts, sure.
Right, but
In
I mean,
fact, that's where
but
they-
it just,
their school courts.
it would be
Are they our
like,
courts?
Yes.
Yes.
it would be like
The Reynolds
me
ones
putting
are
up a sign saying that I was renting out your house. Like, what, I mean, it
Anytime,
just-
Donna.
you know, if you go out of town, I'm gonna like rent your property, I don't
Yeah.
even own it. It just doesn't make any sense to me that they should be collecting money for people. I mean,
Yeah, it's probably-
either we should be collecting money, or we should say that in the summertime when we're not using the courts, we're fine with people in town playing on them, but I just don't understand.
It's
why
got to
the
be something
village
that
has this-
developed 30, 40 years
Yeah,
ago, when they were the
way
ones
back.
running programs.
Yeah.
And so they said, you know, well, when people sign up for the pool, that's because they can sign up for this too. And since you already have that, you know, that structure in place to take the fees, then you guys do it. And, you know,
Okay, but then give us.
well, that obviously wasn't part of it.
Well, but
We need to
then-
renegotiate that contract.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing, I mean, just
Yeah.
because it's always been that way, it just, to me, I think it's bad PR for us, because then when we do want to kick people off because the kids need it for school. People don't understand why we think we have priority.
Especially
And-
since they've paid for the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've had,
think we have to
facilities
get-
has had this conversation because we've had conversations around how to regulate the fields being used and the tennis courts, and there's going to be a lot more that will go into that. That's like a larger conversation. But I think you're right, we have to look into it again.
Yeah, because
I mean, we didn't stop.
But the fields, you have to
Yeah.
reserve,
Right,
you have to reserve the fields to use them.
Yes, but we talked about have certain groups, might they be charged for using the fields? You know, like outside groups, are we going to regulate it? It's like, speaks to a larger question.
Right.
But Jody, there are a lot of unauthorized users.
That's right, but if
Yes.
your team came to practice and you were authorized, you'd get priority.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you want to come and have a pickup game or a regular game of, I don't know, soccer, you could do it, but if there's an ASO team that's scheduled to practice, they get
the field,
It's
yeah.
their field, you know? And it's kind of a unwritten rule of the playground kind of thing, I think.
Are there going to be instances over the next 2 years when we're using village fields because we can't use our own fields?
In the fall, I anticipate that we'd be using some of the village fields for practices of some kind,
And tennis courts? Or-
potentially,
Well,
yes.
they already have the JV practice at.
Up there,
At the
Yeah.
pool,
Yeah.
on the earthquake courts.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Literally, it's like.
That is a good way of describing it.
The post-earthquake courts.
on the surfaces laughingly referred to as tennis courts.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like.
But there's a need to have that kind of reciprocal relationship,
Sure.
I think, and making it clear to the public what those relationships are, I think.
Yeah.
It's really what it is.
We should probably meet with the town again and talk about that.
Or at least just with recreation.
Well,
Kendra,
just, yeah. So it's clear when
Yeah.
people get
Yes.
their permits, what it entitles them
Right.
to.
And I also think though,
Kendra
I mean, if it is our, maybe there should be, I'm sure it's not a lot of money, but maybe there should be some sharing. If they're going to continue to do that, and the nice courts that everyone's going to want to use because we've just resurfaced them belong to us, and the earthquake courts belong to them, maybe there should be some sharing of the money that's coming in. But I mean, I just also think I'm uncomfortable with the permit thing because, I mean, since my son did have that job, I know that there are huge swaths of time when there's nobody there, checking permits. And so some people just go and use them and don't bother to get permits. And others strong arm the kids because the kids that they hire for this job are usually 14 or 15. And so it becomes basically make me pay, but because it's our property, I'm just very uncomfortable with
put up
that
that says that they're property of the school.
We can put up a sign, that's.
That I think should be
Is
up
there
on
a
the.
facility schedule for those courts? There isn't, right? Because-
I mean, there are
No.
times, but not, like. at
Because
times
they will run,
used to
tennis
programs there, they will tell
programs
us.
there,
Yeah.
times when we're not
Then they
using
do
them.
tell us that, yes.
Yeah. So you're right, it might be that that's sort of a gray area that we've allowed to remain gray, and we need to kind of
Make it more-
firm it up a little bit and say that there is a facility schedule for the tennis courts, and these are the blocked out times when it's, and then put on,
And that's going to change over the course of the year.
Right.
But if we can post it at the tennis courts and online.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to be a larger issue because these will be the nicer courts, to your point, that everyone will want to get on. So we really need to be clear about our usage of those courts.
right.
Even if they're collecting the permits, we still need to make sure that's very clear to people with signage and everything else as well.
Well, it's not unlike the gyms, right? That the
Yeah.
there's a schedule and teams get first priority and
Yes.
then rec ball or
Yeah, but don't we
CYO.
control the schedule?
Yes, we do.
Right.
And in
With
the
tennis
summer-
courts, I don't know that we control the outside
Right.
schedule
Well,
of that.
Well,
Do
I'm
we
saying we
control-
could control it.
yeah, right,
Or
right.
at least
And-
make it clear that
Yes.
these are the times that the school uses it and that maybe there is some fee to the village because they have permits that from which they collect money
Yeah.
that they could pay, just
Yeah.
like CYO has to pay some money to the
And
school.
if the village is going to continue to do this, maybe whatever form somebody fills out when they get a tennis permit makes it clear that the village is doing this on behalf of the school district and that the permit is to use the school district's courts, so that it's obvious that they
I don't know,
are.
you know what you do? you have 2 different permits you can get. You can get one for the
Earthquake, the earthquake courts.
You know, so if you're low budget, you can, you know, you can play at the pool.
Well, is there a facility scheduled for the fields over the summer? Like if somebody comes
To
in?
request to use them, I mean, if there's a request made, they're scheduled in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, typically, we don't have as many, you know, sometimes you'll have,
Soccer, baseball,
using-
yeah.
They come in the Little League, they, you know, apply for facilities use, insurance, the whole. they give
Yeah,
us the
I mean,
schedule.
since we're doing, to me, it makes the most sense to just recapture the tennis courts and say, people want to use them, they have to apply to the school to use the school courts. They want to use the community courts, the earthquake courts, they go to the town. You know, that,
But-
because
but
we do it
but
for our
if the-
fields, I don't know why we wouldn't do it for that.
Well, especially if we're going to set up more of a system to do it there, yeah.
Unless there's something I'm missing with an agreement that was done, I'm not sure.
Well, I think what you're missing is that the rec
Perhaps.
department wants to collect money for use of the tennis courts, which is fine, but then,
But it's not fine.
not fine if they
because
don't
we don't
own-
control that. I think if it's our courts and that's how we want to establish it, the only way we're going to do that is to control the schedule of those courts. And people would have to come to the school and submit an application to use the courts.
And then we have to have someone there monitoring.
you can't.
Well, we have to do that with fields anyway. You
Right,
know,
we
it's the
don't have
same
somebody
issue.
monitoring whether people are going on Burke in the summer and things like that. It's just that,
Ye-
you know.
Right,
But
but-
then again, the village doesn't get to charge a fee to use Burke during the summer. It's like, oh,
Right.
well, school's closed, so you're not using it. It's kind of like Donna said, you know, you're not using your house, so someone else can charge rent for it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we just have to take the whole thing down
Eileen
and
goes
say,
away for the
let's-
summer and she wants to rent out her house, that's okay. But if she goes away
I
for
give
the
her
summer
stamps, though.
and I rent out her house, that's not okay.
Well, I think-
And that's basically what's going on here.
I think also just sitting down with them and saying, look, we're about to spend a major
Yeah.
amount of money.
Yeah,
on this.
absolutely.
It's going to be a substantially better facility,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
we need
let's
to have
just
some way
iron
of
this
knowing.
out.
All right,
Yeah.
facilities committee?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's
Okay.
And
a
we have
job
that
for the
module.
facilities
it
committee.
is.
What's that?
We have that facilities scheduling module on the
Yes.
Yeah.
thing, so.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday at 10 PM?
Sounds good.
That's your time.
All right.
You know, the one thing I was going to say, the money,
The money, though, I don't think we should take it out of the capital reserve because that'll require a vote from the public. So I think you have to take it out of like unappropriated fund balance if you're going to appropriate the money. Because we're going to.
If we need it, but we won't need
if
it
we
right
need-
now.
We need to wait to see what the bid is,
You
is
don't
that
need
it?
Because you don't know what the other bids are coming in.
Right.
Right,
So-
but by the time,
No, my point is you
Right.
can authorize it, and the board authorizes the
Right.
change order, but you don't have to, I mean, yes. you
Decide
have
where the
to-
money's coming
Right,
from, yeah.
until you see how much you're going to need.
right,
Because we don't know what the other 2 bids are coming
Correct.
back
Right.
at.
So once we determine that, then
Right.
it can come from the.
right, because we already know we have
unappropriated
some
fund
others that are
Right.
over, so we'll have to appropriate for those too.
Yeah,
Right.
so just do them as a lump.
Right.
So do we
Okay.
need to
Right.
vote on whether we're authorized?
It'll be on it'll come
Yeah.
officially on a board agenda as a change order
The
that you'll
change
have
order
to
will have to be
approve.
officially approved. I wanted to get a kind of a straw poll, so I give the contractor direction, because if it's not something we were in favor of, then
He has to be more careful with
he
them.
would do something
Yeah.
different, you know, with everything.
Well, I think the USDA thing really makes it
I
much
agree.
more feasible. So I think if that's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
if that's a reality, then
Yeah.
let's,
Okay.
Yeah.
my vote would be that.
I would
Good.
agree.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Good contact. Great. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so did anybody have anything else? All right, then we are adjourned.